What's crack-a-lackin', everybody? My name is Beckett.
My name is Alex.
And my name is Kage.
And welcome back to the Back on Track podcast. Before we get started, a moment from our sponsor, the Boys and Girls and Rather Not Say Club of America.
Yeah.
So glad to get their support.
They weren't always called that, actually.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Anyways, we have 3 segments today we're super excited about.
Rolling with this whole 3-segment thing. But before we get started, we have a few things that we just want to go through for the week. Kage, I know you're going to Universal.
Yes, I am very excited. Gonna just go up there with some friends and family. We're gonna ball out for a couple of days.
It's Cage's birthday.
Wish him happy birthday in the comments.
He can finally buy cigarettes.
Wow.
If he decides to do so.
If I want to, but I'm more excited about the lottery. I'm just gonna spend all my money on lottery tickets.
You know, there's like a 1 in 330 million chance you'll win the big jackpot. So.
Yeah, I'll make up all my money.
Which is better odds you have if you don't buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you actually have more chance of winning if you play the lottery.
Yeah, so that's a win-win.
Win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me and Kage went shooting yesterday.
Again.
Sorry, we mention it every time, but it was so much fun.
I've been shooting too. I just don't, go every week.
Yeah, I shot Osama bin Laden. So
yeah,
I'm proud.
I did too. I aimed for the heart, you aimed for the stomach, and together
we knocked him out. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Oh, TKO.
All right, well, we're gonna end that.
Yeah.
Beckett, will you take us into our first segment?
Absolutely. So our first segment, freedom of religion. And I chose this just because some things that have been going on recently, it's just been something we all felt like actually we should take up the conversation on.
Yeah, it seems like we're going through all of our First Amendment freedoms. And we did Second Amendment last week, but...
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, our podcast could end up being about the Constitution, surprisingly, because you know what? America's about the Constitution.
I agree.
And if you're not, you can leave.
This is true.
Anyways, the topic of freedom of religion will bring up a lot of the same points that we had in the free speech episode, which was our first one. Haven't checked it out? You definitely should. We'll put a link in the description to go check out our first one. But also some new points based purely on the freedom of religion. So like we just said, it's in the First Amendment along with freedom of speech, press,
assembly.
Yeah, protest. I was hoping you guys would.
All those things.
So this means one of the freedoms that our newly established government decided to make. And this was to not limit your religion, like we just said.
Because they did in England, and England sucks.
Yeah. The Pilgrims actually sailed to the New World to have freedom of religion. That was the main reason they left. So I think that's a pretty big point. Like before our nation was our nation, it was still technically not our territory.
Yeah.
Things like that. But... So this will kind of go into how our freedom is being attacked, but I also kind of want to just talk about like things that were going on. So last year, 2020, at the beginning of coronavirus in our country, it was widely disputed whether or not churches should be allowed to remain open. And I know for us that was a big thing at our church, and just whether we should stay open or not. I know a lot of
Right.
people were deciding. I know that cities even were taking that into account.
Yeah, we were very, very lucky to have a church that was able to broadcast that out on live streams while people were being forced to quarantine in their homes.
Yeah. And especially, we were lucky to have Ron DeSantis as our governor.
Good old Ron.
He said he would not prevent churches from holding services. So this was really amazing on his part.
So that means anyone who did close down was a choice to close down.
Right.
Okay.
Like, he labeled it as essential if you wanted to go to church.
Right.
So
Somehow, and we still had a better infection rate than, like, a lower infection rate than New York, and they closed down everything.
Yeah.
So
And also, I think if you want to stay home, stay home. That's completely fine. If you're worried about your health, it's rational. If you could potentially get hurt from coronavirus, I think it's rational to take.
I think churches have the right to stay open, and you have the right to stay home. So
No one's making
take that
you
for
go.
what it is.
And no one's making you go to church. Like, same
and
thing.
if they did, that would be taking away your freedom of religion. They would be
Right,
forcing
exactly.
religion on you. So DeSantis, like we just said, made church services essential. And I think that's really good for him. But to be honest, that shouldn't have been necessary. It's our constitutional right.
Right. So it's not, someone doesn't give us the right to
Right.
practice religion, but it's good to have someone who's going to fight for that right
Yeah.
as a governor.
And I know I keep saying it, but the Constitution, I'm going to keep saying it until it gets, disputed. But the Constitution defends our God-given rights and
Right.
does nothing more. It's just there to secure the rights we already have.
Yeah. That's how I felt about it. I mean,
Yeah. So anyone who makes the argument that the document's outdated, I think is just plain wrong. There's nothing really I don't know really how they would debate that. I don't know what points they'd bring up. But the founding fathers understood what power they had. They didn't have the power to give you freedom of speech, religion, or press. They didn't have the right to control you or your business. All they can do, and this is important because it's what makes our country so great, is protect the rights we were born with by paving the way with a new nation and a new way of government. Not one that lets people in power, put there by people in power, by the way. It's people in power, again, are put there by people who are in power of those people. It's endless cycle, really.
yeah.
And those people control other people.
I think it's like the argument, like, if the founding fathers saw the AR-15, they wouldn't have put the Second Amendment. I'm thinking, no, I think they would have, but obviously that's a weird circumstance, but I don't think that it was specific. I think it was, if you have to fight against the government, then you need guns, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think there were bounds to that amendment, even given the time period.
And I would say, like, in most of, like, or in all the Constitution, they were very much thinking of the future of America. They were much thinking into the future, the possibilities of it, and really want to just make these specific amendments very, very strong and not be able to get broken
And
very easily.
I'm pretty sure cannons were included in this, right? And
Yeah,
I'm pretty
so
sure cannons aren't. I'm
technically-
pretty sure that can take down a house.
Technically,
So-
do we still have cannons?
I don't
They
know.
do it at football games.
Well, I don't know if that counts. Well, anyways, in the Bible, it's very clear that God does not support homosexuality, and I am staying on the same topic. I don't want you to log off
we're not
after
going back
hearing
to
this.
guns.
But to make it very clear, this does not mean if you see a homosexual individual, if you are one, this doesn't mean that God doesn't love you. That's not what I'm saying. God hates sin. The same goes for us. We hate sin. We love the sinner. It's always going to be true.
So that's not like saying, like, God loves, like, any person who, like, steals something more than they love someone who's homosexual.
Right.
It's just
Right. All
trying to get this
sin's the
across.
same in the eyes of God.
Right.
And we know that no matter how much we mess up, Christ forgives us. He loves us. He died for us. Mm-hmm. That's for everybody.
And if you believe differently, that is your right as an
Right.
American.
But that's part of our Christian religion. And I'll go ahead and go into my point with this. Churches, according to Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code, are automatically considered tax exempt and are not required to apply for and obtain recognition of exempt status from the IRS. So they automatically have tax exempt, which means you don't have to pay taxes for certain things. In this case, it's a nonprofit organization.
You don't have to pay tax for anything.
Right. And so which seems pretty fair because they're a nonprofit organization dedicated solely to their religion, which is a constitutional right. They have the right to practice that religion. They're free from tax. But this was the point why I mentioned the first thing. Some people want the churches not to be tax exempt if they refuse to do things like a gay wedding.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually heard about this like kind of recently, and it was the same kind of thing with businesses and the gay wedding cakes. Like they wouldn't do that, except this is different, obviously, because the government's
and businesses are not.
exempt.
Most businesses are not tax exempt from the start.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, so you shouldn't be forced to do something outside of your religion just because the government made a Supreme Court law that they allow gay marriages. They shouldn't, I don't think a church should be forced to do anybody's wedding.
Right.
Because that's, again,
and I don't think they are.
Right. And so you're telling me that because they're gay, now we have to do the wedding because they're gay, and otherwise it would make you a homophobe.
That sounds pretty online with I think that's what it is. I mean,
Yeah. But that's against my religion and the U.S. Constitution. No, it doesn't matter. People decide they don't like the Constitution that formed our country, so they can just break the protection in it. It's almost like they think like America made up these rights, which again, they didn't. They just protected them. Just because the Supreme Court approves of gay weddings doesn't mean I have to change my entirety of religion to agree with them.
Right, yeah.
I think that's good. And if we agreed with everybody in government, we really wouldn't need to vote on people. We'd kind of just all agree to make the same move. We wouldn't really need government, to be honest. But we can't be afraid to let people in power take away those rights, or really, we don't have to be afraid, because we aren't going to give them a chance. We're not here just to report the news like on this podcast. We're calling for you to fight for your rights, fight for your religion.
Whoa. Can you please be careful in the context that you say fight, because that is
we love you, go home.
I'm pretty sure that's hate speech now.
Yeah, no, but really, stand up for your rights, fight for your religion, fight for your country, and fight for your freedom.
That was a very good segment.
Nice job,
I
Beckett.
believe our religious freedom is very important.
Very important.
As a person who practices religion.
Yeah, and really that falls into free will, and that's not something specified because it's too general, really. We have laws like you can't go up and shoot up a school and not expect consequences, right?
Yeah,
like
free will has...
Free, you have the power to make that decision.
Right, that's free will.
That's not
free will
without
doesn't allow you
consequence.
to... Yeah,
And
okay, sure.
free will
That's what I meant.
Free will is the most important thing, I think, in existence. God gave us free will, and he gave us the ability to sin.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot different if someone forces you to love them rather than you genuinely loving them, because love without choice doesn't exist.
Right.
True.
That's not love.
Right,
Okay. Yeah. Well, with that said, I'm going to roll into my segment, and I just wanted to go at it. This is kind of going to flow with yours, Kage, on cancel culture.
Yep.
But I'm taking media bias, right?
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people that are like, media isn't biased. Media, I believe it's, down the center.
You're most likely biased.
Most likely on that media bias.
Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. But I can't quote this because I don't have the exact numbers and I didn't look this up, but there is a significant amount of Americans, more than half, that do not believe the media has their best interests in mind.
Yeah, I think it's around
I'm
70.
part of those.
I think it's around 70%.
That sounds about
I would
right.
like to say that, but don't take that to the bank.
Well, I have a question. How many people would watch the news if it was completely fine and everybody agreed with everything they said? They'd be like, oh,
right. Well, like we said,
our life is great.
Like we said last week, the whole doomsday scenario thing, that sells big because everyone wants to know what's going on when it's bad.
Yeah.
If everyone was like, everything is perfect in America today, we have no more issues, everyone would be like, well, I don't want to watch the news. Everything's great.
I feel like we could just start like a comedy news network. Wait, is that what CNN is?
That's
just
right.
Comedy News Network.
Comedy News Network.
We could just have AOC as the star constantly. Maybe that's why they do it. That might be why they do it.
Yeah, but I just want, we've heard a lot about fake news, especially coming from President Trump. Every third sentence he said fake news.
The fake news.
Yeah, but there was a lot of people saying, that's false. That's not fake news. So I think we should just look at a few examples and we can determine for ourselves if news is fake or not, right?
Yes.
So we're going to look at just only a few examples, not
Are
too
these
many.
headlines?
These aren't headlines on our notes. These are. But remember in Charlottesville, the whole very nice people thing, and the media was like, he's talking about the neo-Nazis and the white supremacists.
Yeah, I remember that. They blew that way out of proportion.
Well, I had to do a lot of research because the news networks have actually tried to take that for the full video down so that you can't find it and get the context. If you look through the whole video about Trump's speech at Charlottesville, he condemned white supremacy and specifically said that the neo-Nazis were not very fine people, but the media cut the clip and took it out of context by not showing the full video where he condemned them.
I mean, it's pretty funny because you can literally take anything anybody's ever said and take it out of context, and it would be like the worst thing anyone's ever said.
Right. But when it's done by the media, it's suddenly justified and okay.
Yeah, and nobody knows because that's their only source of information.
Right. Speaking of sources, if you want to see that video or any of the sources that we're going to mention here, you can go and find them at sources.backontrack.com.
That was super smooth. That was like Shapiro level
plug. That was a
plug.
great plug, dude. Now we have Raycon.
Gotta plug the info. Next on the list are the coronavirus lockdowns and Chris Cuomo. Man, he has, I can't remember what his nickname is, but it's something like, Fredo? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so.
Him and his big brother, man, those guys suck. But he was repeatedly, this was, for months after the pandemic broke out, he was calling people out and like berating people for not following lockdown orders and for not wearing masks. Yet he was found out and about in NYC harassing a biker after the biker called him out on social distancing, which I thought was really ironic.
And Pelosi going to get her hair done without a mask indoors after she was and I'm okay with that personally. I don't think
I don't care that she got a haircut. I care that she won't let anyone else have a haircut and she got a haircut.
Yeah.
And she won't let anyone else not wear a mask.
Honestly, she kind of needs a new haircut.
Yeah, for real.
Being honest. But it was Chris Cuomo and the whole biker situation, and then at another point he was in his apartment building and he was not wearing a mask, and his apartment building mandated masks. So he was like calling for people to wear masks, but then he wouldn't wear it when it came down to it.
When it was actually mandated.
Yeah, it was so.
Who are you working for?
You pay fees to the building. I literally work for you. So there was that. And then the brother, Andrew Cuomo, man, this guy's even worse. He's kind of genocidal if you think about it. He killed thousands of nursing home residents, thousands of them. And the media was silent. They didn't say a single word up until just a few days ago when the whole story broke.
Oh, yeah.
That he was putting the infected patients back into nursing homes. I've been so bothered by that this whole week because that's what we were all saying for months on end back in March, April, May.
And then you
June.
get fact checked and it's like not true.
Maybe
and
we can have like, how on CNN for like the first half of 2020, and I think they brought it back eventually, but they had the coronavirus death counter. They had the world, they had the US. We should add like a little ticker down there and it should be like Cuomo,
people killed by Cuomo.
Cuomo caused deaths.
Yeah.
You just see it go up and you're like, oh yeah, we know.
I want to say in New York they were undercounting deaths by as much as 50% because of how many people he killed, and now even Democrats in New York are trying to get him ousted as governor.
That's good. That's good news.
That is good, but I mean, it took this long and this many people had to die.
Yeah, so many people were saying it for so long, and then for it to finally come out that they were true.
Right.
It's ridiculous, especially with all like the fact checking going on and everything.
Right. You get fact check and then suddenly, wait a minute, you were right, and the fact check like disappears and no one. It's like there was never a fact check there.
I'd almost describe the party at this point as like a wolf pack. Like they don't necessarily have to like each other, but they're gonna like tear out anyone's throat who tries to go. Who tries to go in for a
That's
kill.
a great description of it.
Like I just thought of that just now. I was like, that seems pretty accurate.
So it's constantly just making this stuff up and trying to hide the real stuff from people. You saw that during the summer when you had the riots from Black Lives Matter, and there was like the news networks were going on talking about how it was mostly peaceful and all that. Yeah. And there was one guy from MSNBC who was standing in front of a burning building saying,
we mentioned this
is
before.
mostly peaceful.
Yeah,
So I got the video of it and I thought it was really funny. But the problem is they did that then and no one condemned the violence. No one said the violence is bad. But then the Capitol attack happened, and suddenly every Trump supporter is a Nazi who doesn't like democracy. And I'm not saying that what happened at the Capitol was good. It was bad. But I'm also saying what was really bad and also bad were the riots over the summer.
And I think to be honest, the over exaggeration of the Capitol storming has caused even more damage than the actual Capitol storming.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many videos out there of just like people just like casually walking around, not really even breaking anything. It's almost like they're taking a tour. Like,
yeah. And speaking of the Capitol, in 2018, the Capitol was taken over by anti-Kavanaugh protesters during the Supreme Court nomination hearings.
No,
Have you heard about that?
That's different because we knew he was guilty.
Well, yeah. He had a bad college life, I guess. Oh, wait. You mean it was all a lie?
Not one person who was at that party who they found confirmed that he was even there.
But we're not getting into that because that's a whole other topic. So you've got peaceful protests, what happened with the Cuomo brothers, and then the Charlottesville situation. We also have the election polls. Now, everyone knows that polls have been wrong for a long time. It was especially after 2016 elections when Donald Trump won, even though the polls put him way behind. Well, this time the polls were way closer, and we can't really address fraud here because we'll probably get taken down.
Yeah, we can say that there are very specific voter fraud things, but we can't say that affected the 2020 election at all.
Right, or else canceled. But so the problem is the polls were showing that Donald Trump was way behind, when in reality it was a lot closer than they said. And I honestly don't think it was close. I think the amount of fraud kind of, but can't get into that, remember?
I'd be so curious to see how it would have turned out if the news networks collectively decided to not broadcast during the 2 days, the day before and day of election, and see how the votes would have turned out.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go through the polls. So there were polls, they were wildly off.
Yeah, it was worse than 2016.
It was so bad.
Yeah, so way worse.
They were just completely wrong, and that kind of that means they were using their platforms for voter suppression, because if you think about it, if your candidate is X amount of points behind, if he's 12 points behind on the day of the election, are you even going to bother to vote? I mean, it's kind of crazy. And so with that said, I'm going to go into the actual numbers, like the poll numbers, so you can see just how far off they were.
Statistics.
In 48 out of 50 states, the pollsters understated a percentage of the Republican vote. That's in 48 of 50 states. And as well in 15 out of the 16 Senate races that were up for re-election this year. In Florida, support for Trump was undercounted by 6 to 8% the day before election. A week before that, they were undercounted by 12 points. So if you go back, even more weeks before that, it was probably even further off.
This almost seems like it wasn't a coincidence.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
Wait, you can't say that.
We can't say that.
Take it back. Take it back.
It had nothing to do with the 2020 election, actually.
Yes.
It had no point.
This was a perfectly good election.
Correlation.
They were just fortifying it.
Our government's way of election is completely fair.
All right, stop talking.
I got to finish the script.
No. In Ohio, the same thing happened, where Republicans were undercounted by 8 to 12%. So another pretty large deficit there. In Wisconsin, Trump voters were undercounted by 17%. 17% in the state. Yet the actual
that was one of the closest ones.
Total tally came out to 0.5%. So the problem is the polls are just used to manipulate voters. Why? Like I just said, why would anyone vote if they think they're 20 points behind, or 17 in the case of Wisconsin?
And then I want to raise the question: why does anyone trust the polls anymore?
Well, I don't think anybody does. I think the media likes to play it like people do, so they keep spewing out the garbage numbers. But, all right, after we just got to the election polls, next on the list, Eric Swalwell's relationship with a Chinese spy. This one's good. So Swalwell, who is a member of the House Homeland Security Committee, as well as the House Intelligence Committee, was shacking with a literal Chinese spy.
He just walked into my home and he take off his clothes out of nowhere.
It's like, no, Swalwell, don't do that. He still has his job. He is part of the Homeland Security Committee. and he was with a spy. Do you know how ironic
So
that is?
counterproductive that is. Like,
But there was no airtime on CNN, MSNBC, NPR, which they're the worst, or any other left-wing media. The only coverage that they got on the center left-ish kind of area was Fox News, because we all know Fox News is gone now. But
Yeah.
I mean, he's a threat to the nation,
Yeah.
and he's still on all these committees. You would think that there would kind of be some public outcry, but I guess not, because nobody heard about it, because none of the networks reported it. A spy! It
literal
was a spy!
yeah.
Dude, I thought spies didn't exist anymore.
Want a steak dinner tonight, honey? Want to give me another one of those government secrets?
Oh my
oh my goodness, Beckett.
And
That's
he's
exactly
not even
how the
attractive.
conversation-
Why was she dating him? All he does is fart on TV and like
That was a great moment.
he like bounced when he farted on TV.
he like thought no one heard. He like looked
He
down
even
and
paused
was
for
like,
the fart
He,
too.
like, he paused, proceeded. Like,
But, so Eric Swalwell with a spy. That was media bias there. Next, the Lincoln Project. I don't know if this. I didn't know this. I thought it was a Democrat thing. It's actually Republicans who just hate Trump. So all people who probably have no career left because they know that people don't like them anymore. But multiple founders of the Lincoln Project have been outed as they've been outed as pedophiles, right? Messages to young boys, trying to entice them and stuff. And the media has been very, very quiet up until like 3 days ago, as of this recording. But, the Lincoln Project knew about the sexual harassment and they didn't address it. It's been happening for months and no one said anything. Nothing got reported on it. And I just, I think that's crazy.
yeah, I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing about it.
It sounds like the media is covering up for the Lincoln Project. Because the Lincoln Project, they claim to be Republicans. They are not Republicans, okay? We don't want them. You can have them, Democrats. We don't want them.
Yeah, we hand them over. Like,
But I think what you have to look at is with all of these examples, in every case, if these were Republicans, if the Lincoln Project were actual Republicans, Trump supporters, if Eric Swalwell was a Republican, if the media was Republican, stuff like that, the media, left media, would talk about it nonstop for days on end and months.
and those people would essentially be canceled.
Of course they'd be canceled.
yeah, with overwhelming evidence, they would blow it so like out of proportion, or like just make it into the spotlight completely. They do that now with just rumors.
Yeah.
Like if they hear a rumor, like that is fact. We are going to put it out there. Everyone knows about it.
Yeah,
The problem is that rumors become fact now, and that's not good.
that was a really great segment.
Thank you.
Love that.
That's pretty good.
Speaking of cancel,
Hate the media.
Speaking of canceled, Kage, you had
Oh, yes.
your segment coming up.
These transitions are smooth today.
Bro,
Dude,
we're getting professional.
so smooth.
All we need now is donations.
Dude,
We'll
you're
get to
right.
that in a
That's
minute.
an extra plug.
That was almost smooth
I'm
back
too,
in.
too far. Sorry.
All right, yeah, well, we're talking about cancel culture. Man, what a day to be alive. You know what I mean?
Well, or what a day to be canceled, because it can happen any day.
Any day to anyone, anywhere for saying anything. Take anything you say out of context, put it on the internet, and you're canceled within the next day. Doesn't matter who you are.
We actually just got a
Yeah.
suggestion from somebody like literally a couple minutes ago to talk about
Cancel culture.
but who specifically?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to interrupt. We got a phone call. Man, got to stop calling us during the recording, guys. Gina Carano. I feel like I got the name right. I watched The Mandalorian. I don't remember the first season much though. I don't remember who she was.
She was like the really cool girl with she was like the fighter. I forget.
The really
I'm
cool
not really,
girl with she was the.
I don't
okay,
know.
great.
She could fight really good.
Basically,
I'm not that into Star Wars.
Basically,
but,
I guess she's Republican, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
enough to
she was
speak
just,
out about
she
it.
was just canceled.
And she for posting just literally facts, not even controversial things
It
that like,
shouldn't
we
have
don't
been
like your opinion.
controversial.
It's just yes, this happened. We should improve our voting system is one of the things she posted. Nothing anti anybody.
Right.
And it was
Except
just like
anti-Nazi. I mean, is that bad now?
anti like you have the freedom freedom.
Right.
Freedom.
Against, I want to say against lockdowns as well, stuff like that.
I think so. Oh, yeah. How
she's
does
very outspoken about
coronavirus
that.
know the difference between worship and protests?
Or how does coronavirus know the difference between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah, very true, dude. Star Wars and that whole corporation really just showed their true colors with canceling this
Lucasfilm,
person.
Disney, yeah.
Yeah.
The left is like, no, we signed an agreement with the virus and they agreed not to infect anybody during these times and when doing these activities that help us.
It sounds actually kind of accurate.
They just flew over to China, released the virus, and were like, this is how it's going to work.
Do what I tell you to do. But yeah, she got canceled just for speaking her mind.
Yeah, people will try to say that it's because she didn't have any like part left in Star Wars, but why'd they wait so long if that was true?
They were going to give
Yeah.
her own show, actually, is what I heard.
Well,
like on this character, they were going to build this whole show. She released a post in November, and they immediately said, "Okay, we're not doing that anymore." And she made some posts recently, and that was the last straw. They were like, "Okay, no more job."
The silver lining though is now she can't be. They can't use her for their leftist agenda because she was just picked up by Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire.
Yeah,
so
let's go.
At some point,
Was she really?
yeah, there's
Yeah.
gonna be a
Amazing.
movie or maybe like a documentary or something like that with her in it.
That's
Dude,
awesome.
I love the Daily Wire. They really just promote a lot of like these like movies and stuff that these corporations won't pick up because they're not with their political ideologies.
Yeah.
Man,
So cancel Disney.
cancel Disney.
What was it? That was a hashtag. Hashtag cancel Disney Plus.
Dude,
Yeah, we should.
It's kind of crazy how many conservatives are being silenced, but we're still not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like you still see like I'm pretty sure it was hashtag Trump or President Trump was like booming today on President's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's still like we are here. No matter how many times they're going to try to cancel us.
People know who the legit guy was.
But really,
saying.
in my opinion, on President's Day, we should only celebrate Barack Obama because it's in Black History Month. So I think
Done. Let's do it.
it's just Barack Obama. That's all.
That's all you had to say.
That's all. That's all.
I thought you were going to proceed to
No,
celebrate him,
just,
but
just,
you
just, make,
didn't.
just make it known.
He was a president. President's Day.
Biden actually forgot he was a president. That's why he didn't mention it. But
Biden forgot it was President's Day. What do you mean?
I'm an Obama Biden president. That's what he said.
I'm a Biden president. Like, but yeah, cancel culture is really it's so toxic nowadays. You'll see all these people coming out and just you literally could say something from 1997 and it'll be pulled up from something and they'll be like, oh, this person doesn't deserve a second chance at all. Like they have not changed whatsoever. They need to get canceled.
Right.
And they really don't believe in any second chances at all.
Like what they did to Kevin Hart. Mm-hmm. It's okay. That show sucked anyway. What this? I don't even remember what it's called. Was it the Grammys, the Emmys, or the Golden Globes? Or are they all the same? I don't even know.
Grammys are music, Emmys are movies. And
Whatever
Golden
he
Globes or something
hosted,
else, yeah.
he got canceled from. But it wasn't good. Nobody watched it anyway.
Yeah, and it's really starting to show that like no one is safe anymore from the cancel culture, and it's just like this, as you described, it's like wolves, right? It's like a pack of wolves that they don't all have to agree with each other, but they all attack a common enemy, and they go out for a specific
and
purpose.
they defend each other even if they know they're wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very
it's
true.
just-
But I will say the good thing is that in a lot of situations, people don't end up getting canceled. Remember when AOC tried to cancel Goya and their
Yeah, yeah.
sales quadrupled? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, because the thing is, when people try to get canceled, people who actually support them are like, no, we're in the majority. We like this person. I don't think that they should be canceled for one thing that they might have said, or because their CEO likes Trump and Orange Man bad. You know?
Orange Man.
Yeah. It's kind of like there are some benefits of like calling people out. Like you obviously call people out if you don't agree with what they have to say. Like have a dialogue with them, or like don't watch or do anything that they're a part of.
That's up to you, but don't silence them.
Yeah, don't have this like mob rule where you decide to just go and shut every other opinion
Even
that's
if-
not yours down.
Even if they hurt someone's feelings?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, that changes things, doesn't it?
a little bit.
Oh, they hurt my feelings. Let's destroy them.
Yeah, that's essentially we're too overprotective of people's feelings. Like we just toughen up. People talk all the time. We'll never get anything done if everyone cries about everything said.
Yeah, if we cried every time we got a hate comment, we'd have like
I
we'd
would
have cried like
I would have cried
8
twice
whole
as many times
times.
this week. Like, one thing I would like to say about like social media and like that aspect is no matter like what opinion you have, you're always going to have someone else that like agrees with you. And if you get around in a group that only agrees with you, you're just going to assume that you're right about everything.
I mean, yeah, at that point it becomes a democracy. I love how Ben Franklin describes it. He says democracy is like two wolves and a lamb deciding what to eat for lunch. I thought that was great.
I thought you were going to be like, democracy dies in darkness.
No, it was just
slogan.
If a big group collectively who all think the same decide to take over an area, no other ideas are getting in.
Yeah, and it's really important to have like a dialogue and not just an argument. Like try to be open-minded to like other people's like what they have to say, and don't just automatically assume that they're a bad person because of one tweet they tweeted out 8 years ago.
Right, which it happens all the time now. And I think that we have to move past the cancel culture thing and just kind of embrace the discussion, like you were saying. If you don't have a discussion, nobody ever knows what actually happened, and nobody knows how to move forward from what happened.
Yeah, just like treat each other with respect, you know? Like all you have to do is like try to be like a decently like good person. Like just try to have a conversation. Don't try to just shut someone down, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think to wrap that up, we need to cancel culture.
Yes, cancel the cancel culture.
So those were our 3 segments. I think we're gonna kind of move on.
Great segment, Kage.
Our next segment is
we're answering your questions.
All right, well, after that fabulous intro, we're going to get into our first question. And Emily's not here today, so I'm going to ask them. Our first question. 1. Who is a politician that you all look up to? Beckett, you go first.
So I don't necessarily have like an alive politician that I look up to. I think
Understandable.
Yeah, I think it's good to have like role models. I don't have any role models particularly at this moment politically, but I think one of mine is definitely Ronald Reagan, and just the way like his inaugural speech is my favorite ever. Just
one of the best presidents, I think.
Yeah. And 40, such a clean number.
That's 5 before 45. All right, I'll take the next one, and then you go, Kage.
Cool.
We're gonna go in the BAK order.
All right.
And all right, so mine is Madison Cawthorn. I think he's one of the only representatives that I actually like, that I can think of off the top of my head, that I really like, not resonate with, but one like I really look up to. He's the youngest representative. I don't know if that might have changed this last election. No, he was just elected. Sorry. So he's the youngest representative. He is paralyzed from the waist down, so he hasn't let that stop him. So I think I really like that about him. And he is an actual patriot. Like, he cares about America.
Yeah, he cares about
unlike
it
a lot of the other Republicans, quote unquote Republicans.
At Mitt Romney, unquote. Like, but I would say
that's a Democrat.
Yeah, basically. I would say someone that I look up to. I would almost do someone alive, unlike you, Beckett. I would say probably Ron DeSantis right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That would have been my second choice.
Yeah, he's definitely leading the charge right now. Him and along with Ted Cruz.
Yeah, I was also going to say those are the two.
They're leading the charge right now against these Democratic like holders right now. They're really putting the pressure on them and not giving in to what they have to say to them or like what they're trying to do. Yeah. He's very much for the people of Florida. He's trying his best to keep all of our rights and be able to keep us open, keep us flourishing, and he's really trying to keep America as it was. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He was one of the only people that did it during the lockdown like era, I guess, and he's really just been keeping his promises to us.
Yeah. If you have a favorite politician that you want to tell us about, you can comment down below or email us at backontrack.
info@backontrack.com.
Yeah, I always mess up the email.
info@backontrack.com. That's it.
That's right.
If you need spelling, look at our name, I guess. All right. Our second question. What advice would you give to a conservative who wants to be more vocal about what they believe in, but they're a little nervous?
All right. Okay. I think a lot of people feel that way.
That used to be me.
That's isn't that kind of like what the whole silent majority thing was like based on?
Mm-hmm.
Too quiet.
I definitely think it depends on why you're nervous. Because if you're nervous because you're worried about your reputation, or if you're nervous just because you don't know if you have what to say is right, if you're scared to just share your opinion in general.
I think in most cases, I would say full send. I think fortune favors the bold, right? And it takes, you have to be bold to, say outward like how you feel and what your opinions are. And I think there are so many points in history when people could have just been quiet and just, bow down and to stay out of the argument, and avoid the criticism.
Yeah.
But avoiding criticism does not bring progress, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
If you look back to the founders of the nation, the signers of the Declaration of Independence, people like that, they knew they were committing treason, right? By signing their names, they were basically signing their own death warrant, because if they knew that if they lost, they were going to be executed by the crown, right? But they did it for the good of the people.
Yeah, it's not like they had a good chance of winning either.
Right. They were outnumbered massively.
Yeah. And
they were at a major disadvantage, yet they did it anyway. And I love this, what I've heard. I don't know who it's from, but if you don't stand for sorry, I butchered that. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So I think with that, you have to stand your ground, hold the line, and don't back down, and never bow to the mob.
Yeah. Well, I would have to say this personal experience. I'd say probably around it was probably 6 months ago. I would say that I really was scared to come out about my political opinions, even though some of my very close friends knew. Not a lot of my friends knew. But ever since basically saying that I'm a conservative on social media and to my friends, I have found out who the people that I actually care about, or that care about me, who they are, and that my friendships are way more closer to them than they were previously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would probably say a couple things. I would say the first thing is make sure you know your stuff.
Right. Yeah. Don't just go in swinging with your eyes closed.
And you'll most likely lose. If someone knows what they're talking about, you're going to lose that argument, whatever, just talking in general. The second thing, make sure you know your audience, know who you're talking to, know the person. It's so that the number 3 thing comes in, where you make sure that you're not harming yourself in what you're saying. Because that's something we're seeing a lot. For example, Hollywood careers being ended just because they say something, and that's not justified. But just, just being careful.
I don't think that she should have said nothing because it might hurt her career.
I don't think anybody should be hurt because of their opinions.
Right.
But it's going to happen. So just be careful in what you say.
Right. But just be aware that what you say might have an effect, so that when you say it, you're prepared for the outcomes that might come out of it.
And
exactly.
I would, if you're saying something conservative to a person, I would say if it's going to be very aggressive, or you're making a really strong point of something you're super passionate about, maybe don't say it over the internet or social media, because that people can keep that forever.
Right. But I would also say be very specific in how you say it. Don't make it too vague so that they have to fill in the blanks themselves. You want to make sure that you outline, this is what I mean in this context.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer.
Thank you guys for your questions. Those were good.
Those are good questions today. Yeah. All right. Well, with that said, we're going to kind of wrap up the whole episode here. We do want to mention before we end our fundraiser, because we are trying to raise money to buy our own equipment. We're using borrowed equipment here. It took us a very long time to set up today, and we have problems every week. So, we're on the grind trying to give you the best quality sound and quality content. We're trying to balance here. And what we want to do is we want to spend more time writing the episode and, making sure the episode has got good information, rather than setting up and tearing down and stuff like that. So, if you would like to, I would like to ask, if you want to, you can pay by cash or check, or we have a PayPal link in our bio on Instagram. It's donate.backontrack.com. We're pushing that.
We have a goal of $6,500.
Yes.
That includes all of our equipment.
And expenses for the year, because, we got to pay for those too, podcast hosting, website hosting.
And if you don't have any money to give, make sure just share this with friends, family members that you might think would be able to give some money or anything, or just share with your friends just because you enjoyed it.
Yeah. We're really trying to get our message out and grow naturally here. So if you would do that, it would mean a lot to us. And with that, we want to thank you for sending emails. We love all the encouraging emails we've gotten. Make sure you send your emails and questions, comments, concerns, stuff like that.
Yeah, and as you guys have heard about our questions, sorry to interrupt, but
info@backontrack.com.
Sorry. But anyways, we're not just saying we're not just saying that to say that. We're not just saying, oh, send us your comments, we'll listen. We actually are listening. Whenever we don't
respond to pretty much every one of them.
Whenever we don't have a question, that's when you don't send us questions. Like, we're legitimately waiting on your questions.
Yeah,
so.
and that's stuff we want to get answered because it's all about opening up the conversation. This isn't just our like one-sided rant.
It wouldn't be fair. That'd be pretty hypocritical if we did that. So.
Yeah. Remember, we are on YouTube, Facebook,
Yes.
Instagram. Remember that Facebook. I don't know why you're on that, but if you are, we're there at Back on Track Podcast.
TikTok.
Instagram at Back on Track Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
TikTok at Back on Track Podcast. We're everywhere by the same handle.
Yes.
So remember, subscribe on YouTube.
Like that button.
Like the button.
Oh yeah. Make sure it turns
Hit
blue.
the bell, because remember, it will send you a message every time we upload that nice, juicy content.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're on
you know
Reels. Like our Reels. We've got a lot of funny skits that we think you would like.
And send them to your friends. Get them out there. Try to just grow our content, you know?
Yeah. If you think it's funny, we can make more of it. Just show us what you like.
And don't feel free to give us suggestions on what to do in the comments or emailing them
Yeah.
to us.
Do you know how long it takes to make up ideas for TikToks?
Majority of the time.
Yeah.
And make sure you like and subscribe. If you don't, you'll stub your toe on a Lego. It's actually proven. I heard we got a couple emails about that. They were like, I didn't like and subscribe. I stubbed my toe on a Lego.
I made that mistake after the first week.
Yeah, I know. We had
Yeah.
to subscribe to our own channel because of that. It was pretty rough.
And every week on Tuesday, that's when we record at 10 a.m. It will be there. I promise you that. Every single week.
Unless we get censored.
That's right. Unless we get canceled.
Very true.
So
Cancel culture.
But we'll try to let you know if we get canceled. With that all said,
We're also working on making our outro shorter.
Yeah, this is a long outro. All
right.
Thank you very much for listening. This has been the Back on Track podcast, and we are now
Signing off.